everyone. Welcome to 1111 Downtown in Fort Worth. I'm Tom McDermott, the pastor of the 1111 community and one of the associates at First United Methodist Church. Listen, I'm really glad that you're joining in this morning. And as always, I hope you're doing well and glad you could be with us. If you're visiting with us, we're especially glad to have you with us this morning. Please take a moment to register your attendance. You'll see the spaces there. I want to mention a couple of things while you're doing that. First of all, this is our fourth Sunday of Advent, and so we're finishing up our church-wide Step Up campaign where we're inviting folks to just step up their offering during these 4 Sundays, maybe an extra $20 if you're able to do that, just for us to finish out our annual budget this year, finish it out in good form, finish it out strong. So we're inviting you to participate in that. You can see the buttons there online, there to contribute online. You can also go to our website, find out more information, fumcfw.org, and check it out there. Also, I want to make mention of a special thing coming up on December 30th. And we don't have a graphic for that, but I want you to make a note of it, put it on paper right now. December 30th, a Wednesday evening at 7 for about an hour. We're going to have our first, only, and perhaps, I'm assuming last ever, 2020, COVID 2020, 1111 community-wide send-off. So we want to have a community-wide Zoom together to celebrate 2021 coming and to also send off 2020 and what a year it's been. So we hope you'll join us. Brad Thompson will be there, Sharon Robarts, myself, the band, others, and we'll have some music, we'll have some stories, we'll share some thoughts together, all of us, and we'll just have as many people as we can gather on a Zoom as possible. Be watching your emails for the actual Zoom link, and we'll get that to you, but just for now, make a note of it, December 30th, 7 p.m., a Zoom-wide community gathering, and really hope you can be a part of it. Look forward to being able to see all of our 130 plus or more faces. We can hold up to 300, so we should be good. So look forward to seeing you then. And then finally, this is our Advent, the end of our Advent season. This is the 4th Sunday of this series that we're calling still Christmas, but I'm sort of half-jokingly calling it Make Advent Great Again. More on that when Reverend Linda joins me in a minute for a conversation. But for today, this theme is joy, or as I'm calling it, it is connection, as we're thinking about how we connect in this season, and how we connect to the incarnation of Christ, how we connect to the very ground of our being that we call holy. And so for that, we have some special music today with Elizabeth Wills, and Brad and the band are going to bring some special music, and we have a special musical surprise at the end. So a great Sunday to be together, and glad you're with us. Look forward to seeing you in just a moment.
Good morning. The Christmas tree and the welcome candle are both lit. Join with me in our welcome. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again.
Hi, everybody. Carl Sagan said that our inborn capacity for wonder is the heart of worship and the soul of science. And he also said, what better definition of science than systematic wonder? I find that as an adult, wonder is easily stolen away or kept under wraps because we know so much and we've seen so much. What a loss. And so, Holy One, as we come to this time when we celebrate the birth of Christ again, with all that we believe and all that we don't, may we take time to wonder at why the birth of a poor child should bring about so much celebration, and may we be challenged by that. And may we go out into the December night and look at the stars and hear the silence, but also may we hear that stars sometimes sing, and maybe angels. May we look around at the people we love and feel wonder that we are loved and that we have the capacity to love. and to start again, and to forgive, and to be made whole. May the wonder of rebirth every day invite us in. Amen.
I saw three ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw three ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. And with the sail those ships, all three on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. With the sail those ships, all three on Christmas Day in the morning. They sailed right into Bethlehem on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. They sailed right into Bethlehem on Christmas Day in the morning. And all the bells on earth shall ring on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. All the bells on earth shall ring on Christmas Day in the morning. Souls on earth shall sing on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. All the souls on earth shall sing on Christmas Day in the morning. Then let us all rejoice again on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. Let us all rejoice again on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw three ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. Saw three ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
So before I begin my conversation with Linda, I just want to share a quick story with you, a short story. It's one that I included in the blog this week. It's a riddle that I heard as a kid, but I rewrote it some time back as a fable, and it occurred to me that it speaks very specifically to what Linda and I are talking about this morning, this idea of understanding joy, this Advent theme of joy, understanding that as connection with our moments, how our moments are enlivened when we connect with them. So a man was dying, and he decided to call his three children to his side. He had three adult children, 2 sons and a daughter. They showed up later that day, and as they stood by his bedside, he told them, he says, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. And it occurred to me that I have to decide which one of you will inherit all of this land and my wealth and manage it. But it's going to be more than simply a big job. It also requires wisdom. And so I decided to pose a simple riddle to all of you. And whoever solves this riddle in the best way, well, I'll choose that one to be the one to inherit everything. So they stood there listening intently, and he said, it's just this. Find 2 objects with which you can fill this room. The 3 kids looked at each other and then quickly left, putting their mind and their hands to the task, and showed up the next afternoon with their answer. So their father posed to them this question, each one in turn. And the first son stepped forward and pulled out from behind him a large burlap sack. And he opened it up and then tossed it all about, and downy feathers flew all over the place, filling up the room, feathers of every size, just filling the room up until, in short time, they began to float down to the ground and onto bed, sheets, and pretty soon they were all about the floor, but the room itself, the rest of it was empty. So the second son, he stepped forward with a smaller sack, a cloth sack that he opened up and shook flour all about the room, and the flour, a fine powdery dust, soon filled the room with this white cloud that had all of them choking and coughing, until after a few more minutes, all of the white dust settled, leaving a thin layer of white all about the sheets and the floor and tops of the furniture. But the rest of the room was empty. So the daughter stepped forward, and she walked over to the window. She pulled down the shades, darkened the room, and then they watched as she reached into her pocket. She pulled out a candle and a match. She ignited the match and lit the candle, and the candle flame filled the room with a soft light that shone all about the room, in every space and corner. Her father and the two brothers, they smiled at one another and looked at her. They realized, well, she had come up with the simplest and wisest answer. And before her father could say so, she stopped him. She went over and she lifted up the blinds, the shades, once again filling the room with the light from outside. And she says, you know, really, the light has been here all along. The room, the space in which we live, outdoors and indoors and everywhere about, filled with light. It's always been the light that we live in and that illuminates us and that nourishes us. But how often have we missed it?
Okay, well, this is the last Sunday you get to wear that hat. Thank goodness.
Really? You don't
Yeah.
like it? Make
No, I'm just, it's...
make Advent great again?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's all about intentionality and taking sort of stale, overused words and bringing new meaning to them. So that's kind of what this series has been about.
Yeah, like, I mean, we do overuse some of these words. Amazing, awesome. They really don't have the oomph that they used to have. We've just so overused them. And so
Right.
that's kind of what you've done with the traditional words for Advent. The themes traditionally, I think we've gone over this, are hope, peace, love, and then today would be joy.
Joy, yeah, yeah.
And so you have renamed those.
Well, I think it's
and-
important to take these words apart and start to kind of question what they mean for us. I mean, I think that's always interesting to, we often take words and they lose their substantive meaning for us. They become sort of cliche,
Yeah.
almost like an allegiance to certain words, but we really don't know what that's about. So it helps to take them apart. So that's what we've done here. So for example, hope. What is hope in a world where hope seems more contingent upon outcomes? So these were some of the questions I asked myself thinking about these words. What is
Right.
hope when it's in a world where it seems more contingent upon outcomes than something that's unequivocal, that's universal?
Okay.
Right? I mean, how do we understand hope in that way? What is peace? What makes it possible in a time when the world is more about kind of platitude and associating with others who have the same sort of allegiance to words, to the same words, than it is about an actual transformed attitude?
Platitude versus attitude. I like that.
And what makes love possible in a world where love seems to be more utilitarian or contractual?
Okay.
Right.
If this, then.
Than about curiosity and community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so those were some of the questions I started asking. And today, the theme is joy, which we brought this up back at the beginning of the pandemic too, when we were talking about joy in that context. And it's sort of like the question is, do we really talk about joy at a time like this? Whereas, in fact, the real question ought to be, how can we not talk about joy
Yeah.
at a time like this?
Yeah. We need it.
So it's really about what's been missing, what's calling us in this gap when we acknowledge our complacency with Advent, or at the very least, that we have settled for a fairly myopic way of understanding things, of seeing the world and our place in it. And so it's getting at the heart of our relationship with ourselves and with one another and with the holy, or with God in our midst. So that's what make Advent great again.
Well,
and of course, it's a play on words, right? I mean, it's
well,
tongue-in-cheek.
we get it. We get it.
Yes.
But sure, we do need to. And what I've liked about you taking these words, sort of redefining them, is that one of my favorite theologians has said that a lot of the Christian language has been kidnapped. And so I know you and I both are a little hesitant to just throw out words that, like salvation, sin, they have so many connotations that a lot of people just automatically think they understand what that means. And I always feel compelled to try to explain the way I'm using those words, because words do get myopic and stop opening themselves up to new meanings. So I'm really glad that you do that. And I know you've had a lot of feedback from people about the way you've used these words.
Yeah, people have actually had some fun exploring the root meanings of words, getting into etymological spelunking, if you will, on their own.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really kind of inviting us to think to bring new life. That's always, to me, faith, like so many things, becomes static.
Right.
And when things become static, I think we're actually doing a disservice and creating more harm or risk.
The words that you used, instead of hope, peace, love, and joy, because they kind of lost their edge, you redefined them.
Right, so I use the words confidence, courage, curiosity, and connection.
And I really
for hope,
like
peace,
that.
love, and joy. Confidence, courage, curiosity, connection.
Well, then today, of course, our final Sunday the theme is joy.
Yeah.
And that may be the one that we've most compromised, because we tend to diminish it to the equivalent of happiness.
Happiness,
And so it becomes self-centered, what makes me happy. And we know that joy, in the sense of how we experience that in the realm of faith, it's got to be a whole lot more than just happiness.
Well, that's right.
Happiness
Again,
is elusive.
Is joy contingent upon some outcome?
Often we think that way.
We're not happy. We're uncomfortable. We're anxious. We're scared. We're not having joy in our life. But that's the time when we should be experiencing joy.
How
so? That's because what joy is, this idea of connection. It's the consequence of finding moments and places and context for delight. That's essentially how we get in touch with joy. Is finding these contexts and places and moments of delight, in spite of what might be going on.
I was going to say, because not all situations are delightful in the way that we think about delightful. There are. What do we do? I mean, this is the challenge. Joy in the midst of the realities of our world, and it's not covering it up or putting a silver lining on it, is it? It's got to be something a little bit different than that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love doing, and this is why I love these conversations too, is that I think so much is, for me as a pastor, that what I'm really about is also doing theology, thinking about what God is, who God is, how we are in relation to one another and God. And so I got this definition that I'm just going to throw up that people can take a look at and just hold on to it. But joy is, and as I see it, is the discovery of how God pieces together our moments with meaning, or all of life with meaning.
Say that again.
Joy is the discovery how God is piecing together the moments with meaning. So that's our moments, all of life's moments. That's how I understand this idea of joy. So if you look at, as you were saying, the word that keeps coming up, if you look at the etymology, is delight. It comes up 4, 5, 6 times in every association with the word joy.
I can see that, but delight, if joy has to be something a little deeper, say a little more about that.
Well, okay, so the idea is delight is this idea of what is of light, or what illuminates, or what brings to light.
Yeah, okay.
So if you think of moments that were delightful, we almost let them pass by. We don't really consciously grasp them or hold on to them. They sort of pass by. The tea is delicious. The breakfast was amazing this morning. What did you do with the eggs? Did you notice how bright the colors are? I mean, there's just so many different things that we delight in that we don't think of as delight. Did you see how that one person helped the other carry their groceries out of the door? That kind of thing. Just, we think of delight has to be something fantastic, like I just saw a shooting star, or something momentous. But in fact, delight is grasping every moment and seeing how life is pieced together with these moments of delight. That's what brings joy, even in the hard times.
Just reminds me of being, we have young grandchildren now, and especially the 2-year-old. Maybe that's why Jesus said we have to become like children. They delight in everything.
Yeah.
This points at it would be
right.
Delightful.
Just everything seems magical, wonderful, surprising.
Got to touch it.
So let's listen to Elizabeth as she sings this song, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about joy then.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, let all within praise love's holy name. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angels' voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when love was born, oh, night, oh, night divine. Truly he taught us to love one another. The law is love, and the gospel is peace. Chains shall it break, for the slave is our brother, and in the name all oppression should cease. The sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within praise love's holy name. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night
Oh wow, she is incredible.
She is.
She's really incredible.
She really is. And I think I swear her voice is getting better, just better and better. And thank you, Elizabeth, for offering that song, giving it to us. It's kind of iconic for this time of year.
Yeah.
You know, that "Oh Holy Night" is such a profound song and so beautiful and emotive. And she just knocked it out of the park, of course. But it made me think of something, because I've often heard that song in this very traditional kind of way that almost it almost removes it from of how I can relate to it now. It's very exalting of God as an other, as this other reality.
Right, okay.
And fall on your knees and hear the angels in heaven rejoicing.
Right.
I'm reminded of that Rumi quote that says, "There must be 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground."
Fall on your knees.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of, and to hear the angels. So I'm thinking now in terms of how many different ways we can connect with life in delightful ways that create this sense of joy, that invite this sense of rejoicing. That's how I hear that now. How many different ways can we do that?
To connect.
To connect and experience this joy.
When I knew that we were going to talk about joy today, you know, I taught the Book of Joy last spring,
right,
which is Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, who are delightful with each other, and they're very playful, and they kid with each other. It's a book of joy, and yet these are two men who have experienced a lot of suffering. And I wrote down some quotes from that. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who saw some of the most horrific things during apartheid, said this: "When we recognize that we are all connected, one family, the human family, we are then able to feel and show compassion, and compassion is the birth of joy. Joy is not the absence of suffering or tragedy, but the ability to lessen one's self-absorption." You know, I know in the Book of Joy, one of the things that they talked about was what the author put in there, that we have four fundamental emotions, which are fear, sadness, anger, and joy. And he said, notice 3 of the 4 are negative. Only joy is the positive. And so if we can't practice focusing on joy and developing the ability to experience joy and be a part of joy in the world, then those other 3 emotions can easily, and without even thinking about it, overwhelm it. So there's a reason why we don't always have this inclination toward joy.
Right, and we talked about this some last week too, because when you mentioned those 4 emotions, we have a tendency to, our most predominant emotion is fear, but fear and anger, what was the other one? Fear, anger, and sadness, and then joy. We talk a lot more about some of those other emotions.
We do.
We get preoccupied with that, and even when we sort of piggyback on these critical kinds of things that we text one another, or that we meme, or that we jump on, those things are reinforcing some of those emotions of fear, right?
So we need to focus more on what delight.
What brings delight.
Okay.
And so I was reading this book. I've mentioned it many, many times. One of my favorite authors, Ross Gay, a poet.
Did you bring the book?
Graham's going to bring it up on the screen here.
Okay.
But actually, he's a poet, but an award-winning poet and a professor out in Indiana. But he had got on this, something inspired him to decide to try to write an essay. He'd never done essays, and so he was going to write an essay on delight every day. Find something delightful to write about every day. And he said initially, as he got started, it was almost impossible. He was like, I'm not seeing anything of delight.
Because he was defining, I'm assuming, defining delight as maybe happiness or something wonderful, or
right,
wow.
as if the delight was something that hits you.
But how could you do that every day? Maybe.
So for him, delight had to be intentional. He had to be intentional about it.
Okay.
And so one of the stories he tells in the book is that he and a friend were getting on a bus when suddenly he started noticing that the driver was keeping an eye on everyone in the bus, which he thought was more of a suspicious kind of thing, just a driver being careful and watching.
Watching the passengers.
Right, watching the passengers. But then he noticed that she wasn't so much concerned about illicit behavior or something destructive that might happen. She was catching the anxieties or the joy or the fun or the conversations of passengers on the bus.
Okay.
And he said at one point, there was a rider that apparently noticed that they'd missed the turn, and there was an anxiety on his face. She would seen that in the mirror, and she immediately interrupted and said, "It's okay, honey. I saw we passed it. Let's circle around, and I'll pick it back, and I'll get back there and drop you off."
So the inclination was that she was looking for trouble, but what she was really looking for was how could she be caring for them?
And because he was paying attention, right?
Yeah.
Because he was paying attention, it reminded him, okay, I have to be intentional about this.
Yeah.
I have to be looking for where there's delight instead of where there's fear, as the Book
That
of Joy
would
would
be
say,
my
where there's fear
assumption.
or anger, right? So when a woman came in with their bags, an older woman, and they happened to be sitting in a chair, in a bench that was handicapped, he started feeling guilt and like, how did we do this? Why would we do this? And she saw that, the woman did, and said, no, stay. And that made him feel even more guilty until he realized that what she was really saying is, let me sit down next to you. And she wanted to be connected. She wanted to have a conversation. So stay. Let's connect.
Let's connect.
Yeah.
And that became a moment of, I guess, a moment of delight.
Delight.
For
yeah,
him.
absolutely.
So we have to get outside of ourselves.
We have to
be
practice it.
intentional.
Yeah.
And pay attention. Isn't that what Mary Oliver says?
What was that she says? Pay attention, be amazed, and tell about it.
And tell about it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to start.
A great mantra for delight.
So
another way that I figured that we can do this, in addition to being intentional about it, is also being intentional about where we don't do it.
Okay.
So confession, you
Wow.
know, which is
That's
a phrase, a word I don't usually use.
We don't use it that in the
I
church
associate
very
a
much,
lot
do
with
we?
traditional church, right?
Well, not even there anymore.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Confession. Okay.
Well, and
how do we do that? Because, you hear confession is good for the soul, but how would you say confession plays in with
I think it's
joy?
recognizing, like where he recognized these moments in his observations, we begin to recognize where we're not connecting, where we
Okay.
missed something, or where we took the bait, we took the anger bait, the hate bait, or the fear bait, or
Because that's a natural reaction.
right, and then we just take it for hook, line and sinker, and when we start to notice that and we confess that, it's like, honey, I'm sorry, I really came home stressed out. I just didn't even notice how I was reacting. I missed something you said earlier. All of these things are opportunities to sort of acknowledge what we miss. Walking amongst the trees and saying, I missed recognizing how much beauty is here. When we confess that, it's not saying we're bad. It's saying, oh, look what I'm missing. It's beginning to work those muscles of attention, paying attention. And it gives us more opportunity, I think, to experience delight when we do that.
So confession is a reminder
Right.
to us, a practice, being
it's
reminded.
part of that practice, be reminded. I love that word, remind. Right? It's to rethink.
Okay.
It's a way of rethinking. And it's not a bad, it's not evil, it's not wrong, we're not sinners. We missed something.
Yeah.
So confession is this way of going, oh yeah, and that exercises that muscle for delight.
Okay.
And we start realizing that not just these singular moments are God moments, but these all moments are kind of these God moments. We live and have our being in this shared ground of the holy. Everything is holy now.
And we're paying attention.
Yeah.
So are we kind of like the Magi looking for the infant in the desert? But we don't have a star to guide us.
Good point. But we do. That's the confidence. That's the hope. Oh. We are all grounded in this reality. That's our star. And then we
have
courage.
The courage to do it. And
yeah.
the curiosity?
The curiosity to take interest, to care enough.
Okay.
Right? And the consequence is this practice that leads to joy, leads to delight. In a very real way, in a delightful way, this is how the Christ is born anew, moment to moment. This is how this story comes alive for me. This is an incarnational way of being in the world.
Well, okay. I think that's a great point. So say that again.
All right. So this is how the Christ is born anew in us. It's what makes Advent great, this process of preparing.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Because those God moments are all reminders that we actually do live in the grounding of the holy, the sacred.
The sacred.
That if someone says this was a God moment, Advent reminds us that they're all God moments.
Oh my goodness, they're all God moments. So confidence, courage, curiosity, then joy. the experience of the God moments.
Right.
That's
It's how we connect with the holy in our midst, moment by moment. And that's what Advent. That's how we make Advent great again. So.
This has been a good series, and I've really enjoyed those. The focus on those 4 words, themes, but from a very different way of looking at it. So thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Well, thank you for being a part of this. It's been kind of a fun way to explore this path towards Christmas.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it has.
So we want to wish you all a beautiful and blessed and delightful Christmas, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the other side of Christmas. Brad has got a great song. Speaking of delight, we're going to have some fun.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.